Okay, so today we are learning how to compare and order fractions. And this just means we're going to put fractions in order. Now, you might think you don't know how to do this, but you've already been doing this on your own, okay? Your brain is doing this for you, and you've been doing this your whole life. When we're comparing and ordering fractions, we're either putting them from greatest to littlest or littlest to greatest, okay? So you know how to do this. And I want you to think in your head, try and think the essential question. How can you compare and order fractions? So you can take out your fraction strips and order them from littlest to biggest or biggest to littlest. Or you could look at the numbers, right? And compare the numbers and see what order they should go in that way. So today we're going to learn a little bit more about this, deepen your understanding about comparing fractions, okay? So let's start with the unlocking the problem. Sierra, Tad, and Dale ride their bikes to school. Sierra rides 3/4 of a mile. Tad rides 3/8 of a mile. And Dale rides 3/6 of a mile. Compare and order the distances from least to greatest. All right, so what we are doing is we have to compare and order from least to greatest. So we need to start with the littlest and go to the biggest, okay? And they gave us 3/4, 3/8, and 3/6. So when we look at these, they all have the same what? They all have the same numerator, okay? So we can focus on the denominators because they all have 3 pieces. Just the pieces sizes are different. So you can use your fraction strips for this if you want, and I suggest it. It'll be good. And then we will, well, let's take a look. So what you can do is on this page, it lets you shade the fractions in and then look at them that way. So let's look at the first one, and I'm going to pick a fun color. Let's do yellow. So we're going to do 3/4. 1, 2, 3. And they have the 1 up here, so you can have a reference in your brain. How much is a whole? Because right now we're working with the fractions, not the whole. All right, the next one we're going to do is 8ths, and we have 3/8 as well. 1, 2, 3. And the last one we have is 6ths. 1, 2, 3. Now, when we have filled this out in our book already, we can already see which one is bigger than the other. That's the beauty of stacking them like that. They're all flush to one side and stacked up, so you can actually see which one is bigger. So we're going to go through right now, and just by looking at them, put them in order from, what was it? Least to greatest. So which one of these is the smallest right now? Yeah, so the 1/8 is, the 3/8 is smaller than the 3/4 and the 3/6. Which one is next smallest? So it's 3/4 or 1/6 smaller? 3/6 smaller. You're right, 3/6. And then the biggest one is 3/4. All right, so let's go ahead and look at the steps they gave us in the book. Shade 1 unit fraction for each fraction strip. Blank is the longest unit fraction. So this is when we're looking at just the individual fractions. So when we have a 4th, we have an 1/8, and a 6th. Which one of these, is the shortest? Oh, is the longest fraction? Yeah, which one of these is the biggest, guys? Yeah, the 1/4. And then also, which one of these is the shortest fraction? The 1/8. Step 2, shade more unit fractions for each fraction strip. Are the shaded fourths still the longest? We shaded them all in. Are they still the longest? Yes. Are the shaded eighths still the shortest? Yes. Okay. So continue shading the fraction strips so 3 unit fractions are shaded on each strip. We already did that. That was the first thing we did. Are the shaded fourths still the longest? Yes. Are the shaded eighths still the shortest? Yes. So 3/4 of a mile is the blank distance. Is 3/4 of a mile, this one, the greatest distance or the least distance? Greatest. And 3/8 of the mile is the blank distance. Now we're looking at this one. That one's the greatest, so this one must be the least. And 3/6 of a mile is just in between, okay? So now we've already ordered them in our brain, and we've really gone through and thought about it. So it says down here, continue shading the fraction. There, we already did that. So the distance in order from least to greatest is, I'm sorry, I erased all our drawings. The least is, we already said it was the eighths, right? So 3/8. The most is 3/4. And the middle one is 3/6. And you can always take your fraction strips and just stack them on top of each other as well. So I have a little fraction strip thing here. So if I take 3/8, and then I want to do fourths. Oh, interesting. Oh, I don't know what I'm doing, apparently. I should have played with this first. 3/4. Oh, interesting. This is dumb. Guess we're not going to show you that part. All right, so let's move on. Whoa. All right, so let's move on. We're going to go ahead and try ordering another set of fractions, and still have your fraction strips handy because they're super helpful. So let's order the fractions. 2/6, 2/3, and 2/4. These all have the same numerator again. So we have the same number of pieces, but the size of the pieces is going to be different. 2/6, 2/3, and 2/4. I like to write it on the side because this is really good. All right, so I want you to grab 1/6, 1/3, and 1/4 right now. Okay. I got 1/6, 1/3, and 1/4. And I actually put them in order. Okay. Now, are we doing greatest to least or least to greatest this time? You look at what our page says. It says greatest to least. So you want to put them in order from the biggest one to the littlest one. So these are not the same as 2/6, 2/3, or 2/4. These are the unit fractions. There's only one of them. But this is the size of the pieces we're going to be working with, okay? So we already grabbed our unit fractions, and you see how we got a little graph here. We can put our unit fractions into the graph. So the unit fraction of 2/6 is 1/6. The unit fraction of 2/3 is 1/3, and the unit fraction of 2/4 is 1/4. Okay. We're going to go into the box and we're looking at each of these and we're going to decide which one is greatest, least, and which one is in the middle. Now, when we're looking at these, which one is the greatest right now? You're right, it is the third. So I'm going to go to the third and I'm going to put a G for greatest. Which one is the least? Yep, it's the 6th. So I'm going to put an L next to the 6th. And which one's the middle then? It's the 4th. So I'm going to put an M for middle. So we have ordered these with the unit fractions. If we just add one more of each one, it's going to be the same. So when the numerators are the same, think about the blank of pieces compared and the blank of pieces to compare and order fractions. So the order from least to greatest, think of the size of the pieces because we're not thinking of the number of pieces. We have the same number for each one. So the order from least to greatest, which we already did. Oh, greatest to least. Look at me not reading carefully. The greatest one is 2/3. The middle one is 2/4. And the least one is 2/6. Now be careful when you're doing this. If it asks you to write the unit fraction, don't write them here. Okay? We really need to use the original fractions when we put them in order. Otherwise, you're going to get it wrong. Okay? All right, let's look at the bottom. Okay, so let's go ahead and go on with activity 2. And this time we're doing fractions with the same denominator. That means all the pieces are the same size. Okay? And we just have to worry about the number of pieces to figure out which one is greatest and which one is least. So apparently you need colored pencils. You guys have markers at home. You'll be all right. Shade the fraction strips to order 5/8, 8/8, and 3/8 from least to greatest. Okay? So the directions say shade 5/8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Shade 8/8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Remember, whenever it's the same number on the top and the bottom, it means it equals 1. Shade 3/8. 1, 2, 2, 3. Okay? When the denominators are the same, the size of the pieces is the same, right? So think about the blank of pieces to compare and order fractions. Are we worried about the size of the pieces anymore? No, so we need to think about the number of pieces. How many pieces do we have? And that's how we're going to figure out which one is least and which one is greatest. Blank is the shortest and blank is the longest. So when we're looking at our fraction, which one is shortest? Yep. And which one is longest? Yeah. Yeah, definitely 8/8 is the longest because it's a whole. Okay. So 3/8 is the shortest. 8/8 is the longest. And which one's between the other two fractions? The only one we haven't done yet, right? 5/8. So put them in order. I like to write on my paper to make sure I don't do the wrong thing. We are doing least to greatest. So the least is this one. The middle is this one. And the greatest is this one. So I'm going to put them in that order. 3/8, 5/8, and 8. Okay. All right, guys. So that is ordering fractions. You just got to remember to use your manipulatives and draw pictures if you need to draw pictures, okay? And you just got to read carefully as well. Does it say to start with the least or does it say to start with the greatest? You guys got this. You're going to rock it out. Remember to take your quiz. Remember to do your practice as well, okay? And there is an interactive lesson online if you want to do that. I know the bunny guy is a little bit weird, but you got this. You got it.